Stanley, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Not too bad. I wanted to start off and ask you, you're playing a tech genius in Citadel. How close is that to reality for you?
It's so far from reality that it's sad.
I mean, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being Bill Gates and one being a caveman coming out of the cave to touch the monolith in 2001, where are you in tech?
Zero.
So you're like an amoeba in a like a little cesspool kind of thing? Is that it? That
Pretty
bad?
sad. Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think like a lot of a
Why
lot
a
of actors kind of choose.
cesspool? Why a Jesus? Why a cesspool?
Well, like like
How about an
the
amoeba in an oxygenated environment? That's fine, but a
Sure, yeah,
cesspool.
richly oxygenated. There we go. Richly, lots of and a beautiful waterfall,
Yeah, there you are. Yeah,
crescendoing
yeah,
into it. Yeah, it's
yeah,
gorgeous. It's
yeah,
beautiful. Everyone would love to be there.
yeah.
But I mean, I wonder. I mean, for a lot of actors, I mean, the challenge and the enjoyment of the role is to kind of be as far away from your own kind of center of gravity. When you're doing action roles and you're like running around beating people up and shooting them with guns, I mean, do you enjoy it? I mean, do you enjoy how different it is from your own life, or is it just kind of a part of the work and part of the script?
It's a part of the work. It's part of the thing. It's fun to do because it isn't your life. But, the whole thing is pretend, right? So you're pretending today. You're pretending you're a spy. Tomorrow you're pretending you're something else. On another movie or another project. That's great. That's the whole point of it. But you have to bring whatever you do, whatever it is you're doing, whatever role you're playing. You always have to bring truth to it. That's all.
Mm. And how would you find truth in a character like Bernard Orlick? Because I mean, he seems quite. It's almost something like end justifies the means kind of thing. Like he has no problem with shooting people in the face to get an answer out of them. Like it's pretty intense. I'm wondering. I mean, how would you find the truth in a character like that who
I think
is
I think you
so
have to
violent?
look at it, and it's explained at some point further on to look at the devastation that Manticore has wrought in order to understand his behavior, and they have the idea is that they have been so incredibly destructive that the only way to deal with them is sort of it's an eye for an eye, and the loss of the profound loss of people that he loved and humanity in general justifies his tactics.
Mm. I remember one of your first roles was in Miami Vice, and obviously again in Preetzi's Honor as well when you were starting off, and you've always kind of played very, I don't want to say dark roles, but I mean it's been quite military and quite masculine and quite sort of maybe not butch isn't the right word. I mean, when you're meeting with casting directors or when you're meeting with directors, I mean, do you ever kind of question, okay, what is it about me that makes you think I can
Yeah,
go into a room and be that awful? Like, or not awful, but just be that violent, I guess.
yeah. I think that's not the case so much anymore, which is good. A lot of that came from, and Preetzi's Honor, by the way, I was a glorified extra. You actually don't even see me in the film. The Miami Vice, you have to remember, so that was 35, almost 40 years ago. Okay. You have to remember that Italian Americans and anyone who had a dark complexion was always playing the bad guy. That's not so much the case anymore, which is great. But if you were of Italian extraction, you were always cast as the bad guy. In fact, if you looked at the lead characters, they were all, white men or white women, and any lead character never had an Italian surname.
Yeah.
So there was this huge prejudice against Italian Americans, as there have been against so many other ethnic groups in Hollywood. Things are finally starting to change because people are speaking up. But I always found it very interesting. Now you see people, somebody's a teacher and they have an their Italian last name, which is scripted, and they have nothing to do with the mafia. You're finally starting to see that in probably the last 10 years. But that was one of the reasons that I was cast, and so many Italians were cast as sort of baddies.
Yeah. Do you find, I mean, I wonder about this because I mean, I know, like, I mean, a good pal of mine, you know him, Simon Delaney, I mean, he was cast as a heavy, a kind of a gangster type for years. And for Irish people as well, it was like you're either terrorists or you're drunkards.
Yeah.
I mean, but at the same time, you're a working actor and you want the work. I mean, how do you separate the sort of
It's really
negative
hard.
stuff
I went
with
through a
the work?
period where I refused to play anybody connected to the mafia. I didn't do it for like 10 years. And then when Sam Mendes did The Road to Perdition, he offered me the role of Frank Nitti. And because of the way it was written, and because there was nobody in that movie who was the good guy, nobody was you know what I mean? Everybody was questionable, both Irish and Italian. It it was easy to say yes. It was a sophisticated, it was a sophisticated script and a sophisticated film with lots of layers to it. So that was easy to say yes to.
Yeah.
But it's hard, you
Yeah.
go without a job, you go without making money.
Yeah. I mean, I remember your scene in that, like you're almost playing him like this sort of board member, like a business CEO kind of guy, like the thing with the cigarette, like, and we're protecting our interests, all that kind of
But
stuff.
that's
Like,
what he was,
yeah.
Frank Nitti he was a businessman. I mean, they knew what they were doing. I mean, there was all this sort of horrible stuff happening behind the scenes. But he was a businessman. He was like supposedly like a brilliant businessman.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because like you think back to that character when he was played in The Untouchables by Billy Drago. I mean, he was played like a psychopath, like.
Yeah, I don't as far as I know he was not like that. He was very mundane.
Yeah. Okay, I'm getting the wrap. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
So I need you because I cannot do this alone.